Hi, welcome to Viewpoint. I'm Lily Newman, and along with my co-host, Susan Solomon, Executive Director of Drug Crisis in Our Backyard, we'd like to welcome Vin Dacquino, TV host and author. Thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
Welcome.
Happy to be here.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're so glad you could take the time out and be on our show.
It's a wonderful show, and I'm happy to be part of it.
And in front of us are all the books that you have written over the years. Could you tell us just about your newest book?
Yeah, I started writing late in life. I was about 30 when I had my first book published. It was Kiss the Candy Days Goodbye. I was teaching. I retired from teaching after 35 years to write full time and to continue working with authors. That's my passion. The idea is to try to get writers to write. There's so many talented writers who are just wasting the talent. So I work with writers. It started when I was teaching sixth graders. After school, I started a group called the Peanut Butter and Jelly Writing Academy.
Okay.
And the idea was that kids would stay after school to write the kinds of things I couldn't do as an English teacher.
Right.
I was locked into 43-minute periods, and I was locked into a curriculum, and I had some kids who were amazingly talented, and they just didn't have time to write the kinds of things that they wanted to write. So I said, I'll tell you what, I'll bring a jar of peanut butter. That's when peanut butter was legal.
Right. That's right.
Right.
Yeah, then I couldn't do it anymore because of the allergies.
Right.
But jar of peanut butter, a loaf of bread, and a box of cookies. And it really was the Peanut Butter and Jelly Writing Academy.
Great idea.
And they wrote, and they wrote, and they wrote. It was unbelievable, the kinds of things, because they went inside themselves and said the kinds of things they had to do. So I did that for a long time. And later on, here in Mahopac, I was working on another book, Sybil Ludington, The Call to Arms. And I did a talk at the library, and they said, Vin, we're trying to kick off a writer's group. Would you help us kick it off? And I did. I helped them kick it off 20 years ago, and I'm still kicking. So they gave me space in the library, and each week these people would come, and they would share their poems or their stories, and it just went on and on.
So
we've been doing 20 years.
And what day is it? Could you tell us the days
Every
and times?
Thursday from 6:45 to 8:45, and the cost is phenomenal, free.
Okay.
We like free.
Yeah, free is good.
So it's
and
right at the Mahopac
they
Library.
bring right at the Mahopac Library, and they bring potato chips or things to nosh on, so that it's comfortable.
Right.
I've always felt if you're going to do a writing group, bring food.
That's right.
Right.
Somehow it relaxes the
right.
writer. So we bring food, we sit around the table. A writer gets 6 minutes, reads a piece, could be whatever they're working on.
Right.
Generally, writers start at the first chapter,
Right.
and week by week,
Got it. They continue.
just send more and more. And we as writers sit and listen for the 6 minutes, and then I say, I'm now famous for it, I say, okay, comments.
Right.
And someone will say, you know, I noticed your characters are Billy, Willie, Tommy, Bobby. Do they all have to be B,
Right.
E's? It's confusing. And the writer says, hey, you know what? I didn't even realize that. And it's comments like that that helps to make the writer all he can be.
So that, oh, sorry. I was going to say, so they read their chapter.
Yeah.
They'll take the suggestions or not.
Right.
And they'll fix it.
And sometimes
right.
what they do is they go home, they fix it,
Right.
and they come back next week and say,
Okay.
I rewrote that chapter
Okay.
because of the comments.
Right.
Can I read it? You can read whatever you want to read, whatever you want us to comment on. So they reread it with the corrections.
Okay.
Others say, I made the corrections, I'd like to read chapter 2.
Right.
Right.
Fine. Some say, I stepped away from the book.
Right.
I wrote a poem.
Right.
I'm going to read a poem.
So does anything get finished? Like, does anyone finish
Oh,
from
yeah.
beginning to end?
The members of the group since 1997, there are approximately 150 plus books
Wow.
Published.
That's impressive.
written, published by people either in the group
Right.
or by people in the group.
Oh,
Got it.
okay.
So they either were in the group and then published a book, or they published it before.
Right.
But there's over 150 books
impressive.
written by people who have been in the Mahopec Writers Group.
That's great. And you had also mentioned that you teach at Westchester Community
I do.
College.
I
Could
teach
you
at
tell us a
Westchester
little
Community
bit about
College.
those courses?
And I have 2 courses that I teach there. I've been teaching for several years. And they're 2-hour courses. They run for 6 weeks. And then I take some time off, and then I do it 6 more weeks. And then and they're in the catalog. They can be found easily. And it's pretty similar, except that what I do there is they read in the class. I comment for everyone to hear so that they can see how to make
Right.
a book better. And then they email me, and I do a one-to-one
Got it.
by email
Okay.
and send comments to them. Again, it's effective, and several people have written books. They get published.
Do you also help them get it published? I mean, where do they go to have a finished
Yeah,
product?
I don't actually do the publishing end of it.
Right.
I direct them. I'm kind of an interesting writer because I had Kiss the Candy Days Goodbye was published with Dell. It was a Dell yearling paperback.
Okay.
The Sybil Luddington was published by Purple Mountain Press, which is a regional historical publishing company.
Okay.
Hauntings of the Hudson River Valley was published by History Press.
Okay.
And now I've been going to a print on demand. It's not self-publishing, but it's like self-publishing.
Okay.
The difference is that, I mean, years ago people used to go, oh, self-publishing, that means you couldn't get it published, so you
Right.
did it yourself.
Right.
And they call them vanity presses, which means you wanted to be published so bad that you paid to have it done.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, this is a little different.
Okay.
Print on demand means that you're not paying to have it done. They actually pay you royalties. But the way it works is if I sell 100 books, someone calls and says, I need 100 copies of Return of the Cicada.
Right.
They print 100 copies, and they sent it. Different than these publishers who do like 5,000 copies.
Got
it.
If it doesn't sell,
Right.
they have to eat it.
That's right.
Right.
They're
Got
stuck
it.
with them.
Right.
So it's a difference.
Print on demand is a concept that came out in the early 2000, like
Yep.
2000.
Yep, it's relatively new.
Yeah.
And it has blossomed. And I have to say, I love it because, and I don't want to offend my editors from the other companies, but they're the gatekeepers. They're the ones that stand at the gate and say, no, we don't want your book. Or they take the book. I mean, when I
other
did Kiss the Candy
publishers.
Days Goodbye, it took me 2 years
Right.
to
The
get it.
editors.
By the
The
time
editors.
I got it published and in the bookstores, and it did well.
Right.
But by the time I got it there, diabetes was changing.
That's right.
Yeah.
So-
Could you tell us a little bit about the history of that book? You were mentioning
This
it.
book,
Yeah.
oh yeah, this was a very special book. This was my very first. And I was a wrestling coach. I had a boy, Josh, who was my manager. And I said, Josh, you're mopping the mats. You're taking these sweaty headgear. You're built like a wrestler. Why aren't you wrestling, bud? And he said, I can't tell you, coach. And I said, what do you mean you can't tell me? He said, I don't want to talk about it. Finally, he said, Coach, I have diabetes. Do you know what that is? And I said, no. And he said, I give myself my own injections. I've been doing it since I was 10 years old. I have to have injections every day. If I don't have my insulin, I could die.
Right.
And I have to be careful when I wrestle because what I'm doing is I'm using up the insulin. I said, Josh, hold that thought. Now, his mother was one of my idols. Her name is Roberta Silman. She was an incredible writer. She wrote for Red Book, The New Yorker. Her short stories were just wonderful. They were in all the major magazines. She said, Mr. Dacquino, come over here. What is the matter with you? You're writing adult stories, and you love these kids. Why aren't you writing for them? And I said, I was thinking about it. I was thinking about doing a book for Josh. And she said, do it. And I did. So I went and I researched. And what people don't always realize is that fiction takes as much research as nonfiction. Right. And I researched diabetes and said, oh my God, this kid is a hero. I can't believe what he can do. And I also found out that wrestlers don't have to kiss the candy days goodbye. If you learn how to control and balance, you could live a normal life.
So he could wrestle.
Yes, so he could wrestle.
Great story.
And this book was used by so many people. I am a bibliotherapist.
What's that?
My master's degree is in bibliotherapy. And what it means is that what my master's thesis was a collection of books in various topics that would help kids mostly with their problems.
Got it.
So there were books on divorce. I gathered all the books I could find on divorce, put them in a group. Gathered all the books on bullying, all the books on whatever, and grouped them. And when I taught, I had the kids do book reports. I had what was called a 20 book club. And any kid in my class who could read 20 books in a year had a party. And the PTA would pay for wedges and chips and ice cream. And so these kids needed to read 20 books. And what I would do is I'd have all these books together for them so that they could learn about themselves.
Right. What
Well,
they're
like
going
in
through
one
at the time.
category, you'd have all in one category?
Yeah, all in one category. So if a kid was having trouble with his temper, he could go through. And there was a book called The Ape Inside Me. And there were so many wonderful, wonderful books for young adults.
Yeah.
I was just at the edge. Judy Blume
Yeah.
was just starting to become popular.
Right.
Okay.
In fact, Dick Jackson, her editor, reviewed this. I mean, he had me in and looked at the book, and I ended up not going with him. He was going to be my editor. And I was like, when I went to his office, I was almost in a daze because Judy Blume was my hero.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
she was writing Iggy's House, a black boy in a white neighborhood.
Yeah.
She was writing about girls with menstrual period, their menstruation period. All of those different topics that nobody
It's touching.
would touch.
Right.
And all of a sudden, young adult literature blossomed. And I was able to do things that other writers didn't do before. There's a scene in here where Jimmy's in the hospital, and the kid in the next bed has a Playboy magazine hidden under the blankets, a centerfold. And the father comes in just as he was about to show it to Jimmy. And the kid wrinkles it all up into a ball, and the father comes in and says, you guys are playing basketball? I'm good at it. Let me have it. And the kids were like, oh my God. Here he is with the, and those kind of things were never in books.
Right. And
So I was able to be me in my writing.
you wrote another book about a young man who had AIDS.
Yeah.
Back in the, what,
Return of the
70s?
Cicada. Bullying is a big thing with me. In this book, it's an amazing story of a young boy whose parents were hippies back in the day.
Okay.
The father decided he was going to run for mayor. So he went against one of these real established politicians. Well, eventually, the father died the day this boy was born, Damien. suspiciously. Now, 16 years later, and right after the father died, the hippies broke up. The mother went to Florida. She got into a serious car accident when the boy was like 7 years old. He almost died in the accident. She did die. He was given a blood transfusion. Developed the HIV virus. Now he's 17 years old. Cicadas burrow underground.
Right.
And at 17 years old, well, that's why he's a cicada.
That's every 17 years
that's
they go
right.
up. Yep.
And now he's 17 years old. He wants to go back to the house where his father died. And he wants to be buried where his father and mother are buried. When he gets there, the man who was against his father is now in charge of cemeteries.
Wow.
Won't let the kid be buried
Because
there.
he's got AIDS.
Right. And in the last 3 weeks, the main character, Izzy, of this book, a young girl who has emotional problems in school, doesn't have any friends, hangs around the cemetery behind her house, saw the Springer stone. Damien's name is there, but there's no death date.
Right.
She's kneeling by the grave, and a boy appears behind her. Damien. They find out what's going on. Her father, whom she didn't get along with, decides he's going to work with her and help this boy.
Wow.
And in the last month of this boy's life, they actually get to the bully to find out he was directly responsible for this kid's father's death.
I have to read the book.
The bully?
The
bully?
The bully. And it's not a kid bully. It's, it's
Right,
an
an
adult,
adult.
bully.
The mayor.
The mayor.
Right.
So
That
so
sounds
it's a
great.
powerful
Really?
book
I have to
about
read it.
death and dying and friendship.
So I have to ask
sticking together.
you a question
Yep.
about a book that I'm reading right now. It's called The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Backyard. Have
Okay.
you heard of it?
No,
No,
I
I'm
haven't.
not going to go into it because I wanted to ask you about
I
it. But
like
if-
it already.
If you don't know about it, then it's at the library. It's in the front on the circle.
Oh,
Okay?
wow. I'm
And
gonna
it's a
have to look.
play
Yeah.
actually, but it seems like a children's book, like
You know-
you're saying here. But it isn't a children's book. It's an adult book. It's a young adult book because they have it with all the summer reading. You know.
Oh.
So it's the Curious Incident of the Dog in the Backyard.
Oh.
And it's also a play. And I advise you to read it because I'd like to talk to you about
I'll
it
tell
after
you
you read
something
it.
that's very strange. People ask me all the time, have you read this book? Have you read this book? And I generally say no. And it's funny because I worked for so many years with young adults that most of my reading was young adult reading. Then I coach so many writers that I spend so much time reading manuscripts. I don't have time to read the books the way I used to. So I am so behind in my reading, but I do keep up. There's a project, the Rotary Club of Somers had a wonderful project where they get students from all different schools and they ask those students to contribute writing for a book that they
Okay.
put together. So they asked me this year to do the introduction for that book.
Oh, nice.
So I had to, as a result, read the whole book and
Right.
all their thing. It was just absolutely wonderful.
Really?
Wow.
And I'm saying this to you because it is so invaluable to give to writers. When you give to writers, it's like giving to children. You're giving to tomorrow. And, you know, it's so important to let people find who they are. And writing will do that for you.
Right.
Writing is therapy. I mean, for me, when I need to get away,
Right.
and sometimes I do, you know, sometimes the world just closes in on us in every way. And we need to tell our story. So a lot of the writers that come do exactly that. They tell
Right.
their stories.
'Cause-
Do you type or do you?
Oh yeah, when I did Kiss the Candy Days Goodbye, the entire book was done pen and ink
Wow.
Yeah.
because
I believe it.
I was a new parent.
Right.
It was what a difficult time.
Yeah.
When I wrote this book, I had just gotten married. My wife was, my son had just been born, and I was just diagnosed with cancer.
Oh boy.
Wow.
Going
So
on.
I actually was going through chemo, writing this book, and being a father for the first time. And sometimes that's what it takes.
That's right.
Yeah, sometimes
right.
that is what it takes.
Sometimes something traumatic in your life tells you it's time.
Right.
Yeah.
You
It,
need
will-
to
it
do-
gives you the impetus to,
Yeah, it
to
does.
move
It does.
forward and,
And I-
the
It does.
energy
Right.
to move
And I
forward.
think for me, I write a lot. I've got stories, but I've never
wonderful.
done anything with them.
And you need
poems.
to share it.
So
You know, I say
I'll come
to
to
kids,
class.
you know, I say, listen, you like basketball? And they go, yeah. I said, where do you practice? In the driveway.
Right.
I said, who do you practice with? My friends. I said, writing is the same way.
That's right.
Just the way you would get 3 or 4 guys and take some shots, writers need to take shots, and they need to do it amongst each other. One of my favorite authors, Ray Bradbury, said, writers group? I wouldn't think of writing without it. And he had a writers group. So many great writers
Okay.
did exactly that. I tell kids, throw pizza on the table,
Right.
sit around the pizza, and share your work.
Right. Now
Yeah.
your group that you have in Mayapack, the age and how many people?
I have a high school kid in there writing a wonderful story. I had a woman in there who was 89 years
Wow.
old. So age doesn't make a
Right.
difference.
Are you typing in there or writing?
Yeah, they bring their work.
Finished.
Now, we've changed. It used to be that they brought typewritten pages.
Right.
Now they bring their laptops.
No,
Right.
okay.
Or their
Right.
handheld.
Right.
And they sit and they read right off the handhelds. And some of them even make little changes
Right.
immediately after they hear it. You know, but that's what a lot of them do now. They bring their little
Yeah.
things. I even bring my laptop now. And they read right off it.
Right.
And again, 6 minutes. That's
That's
it. And I let them finish the sentence. Sometimes even let them finish the paragraph. But there's 20 of us.
Right.
Yeah, that's a lot.
So we have to
Everyone's-
move.
Right.
and
Right.
Get through.
Right.
Get through.
That's exciting.
If it should happen that a writer gets cut off, the next week that writer's first.
Got it.
Okay.
And this way
It's
can't
That's
happen
fair.
again. the
2
second
hours.
week.
2 hours.
Yep, 2 hours, 6:45, and we say be on time.
Right.
If you're not on time, you get ripped off. Because here's what happens: we give out numbers.
Got it.
We have a little bag of numbers, and you pick a number,
Yeah.
and if you come in late, then you get the last number.
That's it.
Right.
Got
You
it.
know, so
That's fair.
and if we run out of time,
That's it.
we run out of time.
That's great.
So, so it works very well, and it takes some people a little time to learn how to be tactful. You know,
Yes. I imagine that could be.
no one in my group will ever
difficult.
say to you, "Oh, that sucks."
Right.
That was
You know,
terrible.
Right. Right.
You're not going to get that,
Right.
and if they do,
Right.
they're going to hear from me when the group
Got
is
it.
done.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's
I'll say,
tactful.
Let me talk to you for a minute.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and there's a and what I tell them is, if you hate what a writer is done, keep your mouth shut.
That's right.
So you don't have to comment. Not
Right.
everybody
You don't have to
comments on
comment.
everybody's work.
Got
Nope.
it.
And especially people who come for the first time they just want to hear what the other people are saying.
Right.
Yeah.
So they listen
Right.
and just sit.
Yeah.
Some people come right in the
Right.
first day they're there.
Right.
They read a piece, they get comments, and they give comments to others. I encourage people to say, see, now, if you say you don't like something about a person's work,
Right.
what I do, when I do my comments, I wait to hear all the other comments, and then I say, okay, how about that comment? How many of you agree with that? And if people say, you know, no, I turn to the writer and I
Right.
say, remember,
Right.
here is the rule.
Right.
Listen to what everyone says, but you don't have to do
That's right.
what they
That's right.
say.
You don't have to
And
do
you
anything.
don't have
That's
to
right.
agree.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and don't argue with them.
Right.
Just say yes.
Thank you.
know, hear it,
Right.
use it, or
Right.
don't.
Right.
That's
That's it.
and that's very important. So
So no writing goes on in the class, only the...
no writing goes on in the class,
Got
and
it.
the only teaching I do,
Yeah.
and I don't really do a lot of teaching in that class.
Okay.
What I do is when I give my comments, I'll say something like, remember, watch me. You go into a bookstore and you look, then you open the cover, you go like this, and you go. If that first page doesn't grab the
That's
reader,
it. Done.
you have lost
Right.
the reader.
That's right.
So I'm going to ask you, is that the best first page you could give
Got
me?
it.
Yeah.
So
Oh.
in that way, very
some
short
thinking.
little lessons.
Got it.
I tell them to think very carefully about the title. If the title, there's simple rules that a buyer
Right.
does. Goes in the bookstore, he looks at the cover.
Mm-hmm.
If
Yeah.
the cover's
Right.
striking,
Right.
he reads the title.
That's right.
If the title works,
That's
he
it.
flips it over
That's
and
right.
reads the back blurb.
Right.
If that still works, he opens
right.
it up and reads the first page.
Right.
So before you read it to me and before you present it to me, give yourself the test.
Got it.
Would you buy this book?
Got it.
And if not, fix it.
Got it. Right.
So, and I tell my writers, writing's easy. Rewriting,
So,
editing, revising. Don't write a book, work
Right.
a book.
it's very
That's
good
what you have
advice.
to do.
That's
you have
great
to get
advice.
it. So those are the kinds of things that I teach
Right.
writers.
Right.
And just small lessons.
So we'll be there
Right.
on Thursdays
Yeah.
at
Oh,
Mayor
good.
Park Library.
We'll give it a shot.
We'll give it a
Give
shot.
it a shot.
Because, you know,
Be
we're,
there.
we're running out of time.
Oh, wow.
But it was
Time goes
great.
by when you're having fun.
It was
That's for
great
sure.
having you, and it was very interesting.
Pleasure.
Very interesting. We're excited about coming to
Yep.
one of your
class.
classes.
Thank
Wolfpack
you.
Library.
On Thursdays,
6:45 to
Thursdays,
8:45.
6:45 to 8:45.
And it's free.
No cost.
Just
No
come in.
cost.
Thanks to the generosity
Do you
of the
want to
library.
tell everyone your website where they can get your
Yep,
books and
absolutely.
information?
Please go to www.vtdacquino.com.
Thank you.
There I am.
There you are.
Excellent.
There's all your information.
You'll find all my shows on there as
Good,
well.
that's right.
Okay.
I have 100 Let's Talk Writing.
That's right. And one.
Please watch that. Those are writers
Right.
Yeah, okay. All
giving
right, let's
ideas
talk
about writing.
Thank
writing.
you.
I think that's great. I think we will
Yep.
watch that
Thank
as well.
you very much
Excellent.
for being
Thank
here.
you for
It was
having me.
great
Oh,
having
it was
you.
great having you here. Very interesting. You got some array of books here. We never even got to talk about the Earth
Good. Go on the
Foundation.
website. You'll see them all.
That's right.
Yeah.
Perfect. Now we just keep talking.
Yeah.
Excellent.